I woke up and I couldn't breathe. Then I sat up on the side of my bed, trying to get relaxed. Ted asked me how I was, and I said, I'm just having trouble breathing. And he said, well, we're going to go to the hospital. The ambulance that picked us up to take us to the hospital, the driver was so afraid of me, he wouldn't help me down the steps and into the car.
It's been 3 hours since I took him in there, and I don't know anything. I seem to have lost my husband. And they go, what do you mean? I said, well, I brought him in here. And they go, what's his name? They told me, they said, oh, they just took him upstairs to the COVID unit. The nurse is getting ready to call you. And then my phone rang at that point. And it was the nurse from the COVID unit that said he was going to be admitted to the COVID unit and this, that, and, kind of what they were going to do. And at 1 o'clock that afternoon, they intubated him. And he was intubated for 26 days. He was in 3 different facilities for a total of 297 days. When are they gonna bring him out of this coma? When is his body gonna be in a position that they can bring him out of this coma? The best we were able to figure it out. He got it at work. And they were doing a procedure they had that they were taking everybody's temperatures, as so many places where if your temperature wasn't right, you didn't get in. Well, he was pretty good friends with his boss, and nobody would volunteer to do it, so he volunteered to do it.
And I was laying on my stomach, and somebody woke me up. And again, I had all this stuff. I had the trach and all this equipment on me. And they said, we've got somebody here who wants to talk to you. And I turned to my right, had me turn to my right, and I was video conferencing with Teta.
She turned that laptop around. I hope she didn't look at the camera because I think my eyes were probably pretty big as silver dollars. Yes, his face was very puffy, but it was so distorted. I would call 3 to 4 times a day. And you learn to trust the voices because that's all you have. You can't sit down and talk to somebody face to face. And if you don't trust that voice, you don't know what's going on.
I was lying in bed, and every time they put me to bed, I was angry because it felt like they had tied me into the bed. And I'm thinking, why would they restrict my movement? I would think they'd want me to be able to move around. And I complained to one of the nurses. I said, how come you've got me tied into this bed? And the nurses said, here. She said, picked up the sheet and she laid the sheet down over my arm. I said, okay, pick that raise that sheet off you. And I couldn't. And she said, you're not strong enough to overcome the force of gravity of that sheet on your arm. That's how weak you are. And that was the first time I had any awareness of what was going on physically.
When they started working with him, teaching him how to walk, because when he woke up, he had no arm movement and no leg movement. So anything that you did, like arm exercises, you had to physically move his arm. Leg exercises, the same way, you had to hold the leg and move it. And he had no muscle tone. So to see him standing up was a lot of core, and the legs were starting to come back. On our wedding anniversary, I got to go, had to test, had to mask, had to all that stuff. I walked into his room that day. There were all these people there. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And he was working with therapists, and I got to see him actually walking for the first time. I'd seen it on video, or I'd see it on camera, but to see it actually happen was just pretty amazing. And then we danced. And it was just a lot of hugging but hadn't been able to do that for a long time.
When I went to therapy, I'm thinking I'm going to be able to walk out of there, without this thing. And right now I'm in therapy hoping to someday be able to walk with that thing, that cane over there.
He has chronic kidney disease. He has challenging use of his left hand. His feet, he has a lot of neuropathy, a lot of shooting pains with maybe nerves in his legs, at his feet. Type 2 diabetes that he's now on insulin for. He was considered pre-diabetic before, but it was controlled with oral medication. He obviously has weakness and numbness in his legs and his feet, and he has literally no muscle, no ankle muscles, so that if he takes off his braces and he picks up his foot, his feet both drop, which he didn't have foot drop before.
See, I think the actual real story here isn't me, because again, so much of it I've been unconscious for. It's what she's been through. People say, man, you've had it tough. I said, no, I didn't get any phone calls at 4 o'clock in the morning saying, you need to be here because we don't think he's going to live through the weekend.
The most endearing part of the whole thing was the look in his eyes. It was a look of recognition. He knew who I was, and I felt very, very loved. While this has been a long journey that's not over, at times a frustrating journey, and challenges, new challenges every time. The great thing about it is that our relationship is better than it ever was. And that's worth $1 million. Long COVID, we don't have all the answers, and I don't know that all the answers will be found in our lifetime, in the remainder of our lives. But it's just meet the challenges every day and put a smile on your face